Greetings Internet, DDA here, and welcome to another deck profile video we have coming to you. This time it is my boy Vegeta coming at you from Azarith. Azarith has been working on this list for a while, and I enjoy it so much. Of course, Saiyan style is true to my heart, and not only that, but also Azarith was able to conquer the field of the Dennis Games 2.0 and reach a top 8 victory. Not complete victory, but top 8 is great nonetheless. So we had several people ask about this list. We just wanted to bring it to you and talk about it for a little bit. So without further ado, let's kick it off here with Azarith. Here we go with Azarith. How you doing today?
Doing really well. Actually, feel good from yesterday. I always like to go into every tournament. I just want a winning record, and then end up top cutting, and I'm happy.
Your deck performed extremely well, so let's just scan over the list real quick. This deck performed so well. So let me ask you just in general, why did you choose this personality?
So I really liked Majin Vegeta when he first got released. I played Villain Vegeta in set 1, and I always liked villains in Villain Vegeta because you get stare down, Galick Gun, things like that. I've never played the Hero Vegeta. But then they gave him the Majin trait, and all of his levels are incredibly relevant. And the Majin trait became really strong with some of his, with like his new named card, Concussive Strike, and Saiyan Massacre. So I like the level 1 because it just shoots you off of the level 1 with only needing 4 anger to level. Your mastery giving you an anger on hit, you can actually get an entire level in one attack, like Concussive Strike or Spin Kick, Left Kick. They can actually give you 4 anger with that level 1 active, which is why I preferred over like the Crown Prince, which is a more consistent anger gain, but it doesn't give you the burst, and it doesn't give you the anti-D level protection.
Yeah, and of course it also combos with Final Flash, but we'll get into that later.
Yep.
But one question I did want to ask you before so you run the Rampaging here. Dual victory, awesome.
Yes.
Have you ever considered other Saiyan masteries or?
So I had considered toying with a build of dynamic Majin Vegeta that just kind of camps on level 2 as like a control aggro deck. But I just never really put a lot of time into it. I just Vegeta just wants to go fast. So we play the mastery that lets us get to our higher levels faster and utilize a lot of like discard effects, especially with like Saiyan Flying Kick. When that card came out, I was like, Saiyan Rampaging just got a huge boost with that card.
For sure. All right, so now let's go over the attacks.
So we're going to start with the energy attacks in the deck because it's a little less bulky, but we run more than probably people are expecting from what they assume is a physical beats MP. So starting with 3 Saiyan Bursts. This card is just too good not to run in Saiyan decks. It gives you an anger, gives you anger control, has 3 endurance. Even if you're stage locked, you have access to your mastery, which is why I like Rampaging for this deck. None of your cards are really dead. Gives you style rejuvenation, so it allows you to set up your discard pile for Majin Vegeta level 3. So I like effects like this because I don't like using Majin Vegeta's discard pile banishment on myself, other than the level 3, because you have to. So this allows me to focus my level 2 power on my opponent's discard pile and still set up my discard pile how I would like to.
Plus it's immediate anger, so it's a 2 anger card.
Right, it's a 2 anger card in Rampaging.
Yep.
Then what would Vegeta be without his Final Flash?
A surprise attack deck?
Yeah, Vegeta should be running Final Flash. This card is just too good. 2 anger, so it's still relevant even though it's not styled. 4 damage, hard to stop it. The damage is minimal, but forcing your opponent to now have to attack into you, and generally your attacks are going to outvalue your opponent's attacks, and this just wins control matchups. Then the hit effect combined with the Vegeta level 1, if you know you're not going to be able to win by MPPV, then you can actually bounce down from level 2, get the random discard, bounce back up to level 2 from the level 1. Not only does that give you the random discard, it gives you 10 more stages. So if you only had 3 stages, you can do that bounce and just get 10 free stages. There's no reason not to run this card. I don't know why Vegeta's wouldn't.
Yeah, just think about how many masteries it shuts off.
Yeah, Mischievous Mastery, if Dragon Ball decks are your problem, yeah, Final Flash is your way to go. Then the other reason that I'm running this Vegeta level 1 instead of Crown Prince is Crown Prince loses the Majin trait. And the Majin trait on Saiyan Massacre is really relevant. So, immediate board control of a setup or drill, or setup or ally. And there's not a lot of things that deal with setups. So the fact that you can just get the immediate banishment, you get to unclog your discard pile because you're a Majin. So it's just, I'm going to banish these 4 cards that I can never get back because they're all non-styled. And I get to rejuve it. Then it does a lot of damage, and it gives you more anger control. And because all these are styled attacks, you get free anger on, or you get anger on them if they're going to hit, and most people aren't going to be blocking your energy attacks.
Yeah. If you just consider his level 4 and Galick Gun, what are the card that you're most afraid of? Villainous Visage.
Yep.
And right here's your answer for that.
Yep. And surprisingly enough, like, going into the final energy attack, we're running 2 Galick Guns. This puts your opponent on notice. They see this come up, or even if they don't, like, they're just assuming you're going to run it, they have to hold energy blocks. So your Massacres are going to hit, your Bursts are going to hit. And then, as Didier kind of brought to my attention the night before the tournament, he's like, imagine you're sitting on level 4, and you throw Galick Gun, and you just look at your opponent. And you ask them to respond. It's, do they want to take the Galick Gun, or do they want to take the power? If they take the Galick Gun, you just don't throw the power.
Genius.
Yeah, it's a great mind game. It just forcing your opponent. I've always been a player that likes to force his opponent into awkward positions and make them make decisions that they're not comfortable with. So I liked that scenario. Then we're going into the physical attacks, which is much more prominent. So running the Majin Vegeta Concussive Strike. So it's considered styled because we always have the Majin trait. So we're getting anger from our mastery. Flat 6 stages. Gives immediate anger control. Now, the opponent gets to choose what they banish, but you can actually set it up where they only have a few options anyway. So because of how much discard pile banishment you're already doing, they might just have to pick the cards that they don't want to get rid of anyway. And you get to rejuve too.
Yeah, that's the most relevant for me, the rejuve too.
Yep. You do have to watch out though, because if you don't plan it right, you'll rejuve into a non-styled card on top, and then Vegeta's level 2 isn't in effect anymore, but you can generally play around that. Then what would a Rampaging anger deck be without Saiyan's not very many 2 anger cards? So it forces your opponent into a position with the level 1, because if you're at 2 anger with level 1 active, you face strike up to level 2, and it's, do you block it and let me draw, or do you let it hit and give me 3 anger?
Yeah, and when we were originally talking about if Saiyan or Red was better, he brought up this combo to me with the level 1, and I was like, wow, yes, Saiyan definitely competes, like, is on par with Red.
Yeah.
Because of that combo.
Yeah, because you'll level up, then the hit effect is lower your anger too. You don't have any anger to lower, and then all of your other hit effects will trigger. So you get 2 anger, you get a crit, you get an anger from the mastery, or it's just like your opponent stops it and you get a draw, which is probably going to be relevant. So let me tell you about this card. Saiyan Flying Kick. Man, is that effect strong. When you use a hit effect, you get to lower your opponent's anger. We have a lot of hit effects. Every styled attack we have has a hit effect. So it counts itself. Every time we want to gain anger, we lower our opponent's anger. And then if we want to ever activate our mastery, we just get to draw a free card. Because reasons.
Free damage. Why
free
not?
Damage,
Dive.
free card.
Saiyan
Yeah,
Dive.
dive for 5 that also lets, or dive for
10.
11,
Yeah, 11
that also lets you draw a card. It's real strong. And then it also does 6 stages, 7 or 8 on level 2 and 3. That card's real good. And it doesn't banish after you, so it's real nice. What would a Saiyan villain be without Saiyan Grab? And we do it better than Brawly, in my opinion, because we get
stronger.
We're stronger. We have the mods as well, and we have this level 1 that says I'll activate Vegeta level 1, grab unstoppable, I'll get 3 anger and draw a card. So there's not much to say about this card. Getting to draw a card. Who doesn't like chaining cards? Now on to the controversial one.
Controversial.
Saiyan Left Kick.
Controversial. A controversial tier 1 card.
Yeah. So I wasn't running it originally, and Didier's like, how are you not running this? You're not leaving my house for the tournament without putting 3 of these in your deck. And I'm like, I don't know. You're not going to be able to convince me. My opinion, and it was always a bland attack. It just does damage. It gets you anger, yeah, but it just did damage. I like more tech options from my attacks. But the 1 anger immediate effect is really relevant. So I was like, All right, you win. And that's pretty much all I can say about it. It does a lot of damage, and it gives you anger.
Straight for the life. Gotta love it.
Straight to the life is actually relevant because there's still a lot of decks that are like advancing levels, getting stages back, and then you can still just punch them right to the deck. Saiyan Legendary Strike. So my top 8 game against Kevin Curtis, he saw like some of my cards that I was playing, and he saw Legendary Strike. He's like, "What is this? Like, what are you doing?" People were asking, "Do you have a way to use the reveal effect?" I'm like, "No, you don't need it. The reveal effect is just icing on this card. It's an AT plus 4 physical that lowers your opponent's anger 2, and it's 2 endurance. On top of that, it's a pseudo block. It prevents 3 and 3 when you play it, which will also lower their anger 2. This almost saved me in top 8 because I had 2 of them, and I was able to prevent 9 stage attack going into 9 life cards and turn them into 3 life card attacks.
Yeah.
That's so close.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love Legendary Strike. I don't think this card could ever not be a 3-of for me. Oh, doggy. This card, I've loved Saiyan Severing Punch since it was released. I wasn't running 3 of it in my Oppressive Goku deck that I played at Isekai, and I immediately regretted it. People don't know what this card does. It shuts off 2 anger cards, shuts off Namekian Right Throw, shuts off Piccolo's Weighted Clothing. It shuts off D-Levelers and Unleashed. So I felt bad. My good friend of mine, TJ Cochran, playing Namekian Slug, tried to Unleashed. I'm like, okay. Search for his Namekian Attach card. Went to level up, and I'm like, you can't level. Saiyan Severing Punch is active. And he's like, well, okay then. And then we missed it the second time when he Namekian Hunt Ball 2'd the deck. I went down, still won by anger, but I went down when I had Severing Punch active. It shouldn't have even been an option right there. Yeah, this 3 of every Saiyan deck. I'm gonna put it right here. This card, too good, too good. And then Didier loves this card.
Best Saiyan attack ever.
It's definitely up there. There's nothing bad about this card. Gets rid of an ally, does damage, gives anger, lowers anger, has endurance. Love this card. All these 1 anger cards that we have can be potentially full levels with Vegeta level 1. So a lot of people were like, well, Vegeta level 1 is just really telegraphed, and it's real easy for your opponent to play around it. It's not. You have so many attacks that your opponent doesn't want to hit because they're either going to take too much damage or they're going to give you anger anyway, that you like throw the Severing Punch. They don't want that to hit. Then you activate Vegeta level 1 and they're like, uh-oh. And you just get a lot of anger. Like, it's so good. You're able to transition levels with anger so quickly in this deck. You can go from 1-2 anger to 2-3 anger real easy. 2 Saiyan Dives. This was originally at 1 of, then it went up to 3 of, then it went back down to 2 of. So more board control. The discard effect for Rampaging is it becomes Endurance 10. So it's an 11-stage physical attack. Does life. Also gives us discard unclog. So we get to banish more of those cards that we don't want in our discard pile when we're level 3. I really like this card. Also lets us set up the bottom of our discard pile again. 4 life cards. People aren't want to stop that when you're throwing 10-stage physical attacks. So it'll give you anger. And then, oh my gosh, what have I done? I'm not running 3 Suppressive Strikes. I know, this is weird for me too. Vegeta level 2 doesn't need 3 of them. His level 2 is good enough. The 2 Rejuve stop combat enders is good. Stops time. That's the sole reason that stops time. And a combination that I got to do that I'd been talking about for a while with some of the people that I playtest with, like Shane Runnels? Never remember his last name. Was Saiyan Severing or Suppressive Strike and Time. Your opponent attacks you, you play Time, then you play your Suppressive Strike. Your Time's active. If they have it, theirs isn't. It's real sneaky. I really like Suppressive Strike, but there's not much to say about it. Everyone that is a Saiyan should be running at least 2 of these. But yeah, so those are the attacks. The only other attacks I'm going to talk about are Vegeta's level 2 and 3, or 2 and 4. Energy attack that people forget is an energy attack because it does 6 stages. people don't want to block energy attacks because you're a physical deck and they don't want energy blocks, and then they forget it's an energy attack. And then this is also an energy attack that just kills people. Does a lot of damage. I hit this 3 times yesterday and just killed people. Yeah, that's the attacks of the deck. So I really like the attack lineup we have, and I don't think I'm going to change much of it.
So now we'll go over the events and blocks.
So going into our events, we're running 3 very pretty Majin Vegeta stare downs. So you might be wondering, hey, this is kind of anti-synergy with Vegeta's Final Flash. It is, but it trades stare down for their best card in their hand, which generally would be a block. Never a time I didn't want stare down on my hand yesterday, so I don't think I could ever cut it. Plus, it has Vegeta on it.
It kills the block. And combo with the level 4.
Yeah, kill their energy block, then kill their deck. 2 Unleashed. But hey, we're an anger deck. Blue Protective Mastery exists. Angering with this deck against a blue turtle deck that just runs all the anti-anger is difficult. And against some of those decks, we want to be just sitting on level 2. So we'll just Unleash from level 1 to level 2, and then we'll just sit there. Because we don't need to get anger. Most of our anger gain is optional. So we can just Unleash there, and then sit there and just, you can't end combat, you can't make me skip, you can't make me pass, and I have an energy attack for 6 stages that's going to pressure you every turn while I'm banishing your discard pile. Does open you up to the counter Unleashed, but that's why we're running this level 1, so we can just go right back up. The attached cards we're running are Saiyan Combative Stance and Saiyan Strength Test. Saiyan Strength Test, Joey DeCarlo actually told me, he's like, you should put that card in there. It didn't get a lot of work, but I understood why it should be in there. It just shores up a lot of other matchups because of how much anger we gain. This card is incredibly good. It gives you a shuffle, which the deck doesn't have. And shuffling is probably the most powerful mechanic in Dragon Ball Z. Being able to shuffle your deck, especially with cards that are like Suppressive Strike and Concussive Strike that are rejuving, you then get to just make them live again. And it gets 3 stages, so it gets you out of a stage lock.
The only suggestion I would make, and again, I understand this for sure, I would consider Tree of Might. And it is a setup, so on the defense, it's definitely better for you to draw Strength Test than it is Tree of Might. But, I mean, more damage. Plus you're banishing with Majin Vegeta's powers.
There is a reason why Tree of Might doesn't win that spot, and it's in the planning phase. Vegeta's Prideful Challenge shuts the modifier off.
Ah, look at you.
So that's why Tree of Might couldn't really win a spot in this deck. Then Time's a War Still.
Because it's time.
We're just going to move this over here. Time got actually less powerful with visiting the past freeze.
Love it.
Happy with that. There were times where it maybe wasn't my first target with discard pile banishment because I knew they weren't running Ball 7. They weren't running a lot of rejuvenation. So it's like, okay, I'm just going to get rid of other cards. Blocks we're running. 3 Saiyan Arm Catch. 2 Endurance, gets an anger. Stops you from getting defensive bursted. That's the sole reason. Getting anger is real strong on a block. 3 Saiyan Escapes. It's real boring. Stops physical. But we can discard it to our mastery to get a 4-stage physical that gets us stages back. We do run, like I said, we run 10 energy attacks. One of them is a 3-stage energy attack. So getting the 3 stages back is really relevant. Also good against Brawly. If you level up, then you can discard an escape to the mastery to get back up to 6 stages. And then get back into like your D and E brackets. And 3 Endurance is real hefty. This deck has 64 Endurance on 32 cards. So every other card in your deck has Endurance, and it's generally a lot. Then Saiyan Forceful Stop from the new set. I love this block. Me and Didier have gone back and forth in this spot for Saiyan Energy Deflection because of the immediate anger on block. But I like the immediate anti-anger on this. I like that it's 5 Endurance when I discard it to my mastery, so it actually becomes a 6-stage physical. And it gives you a modifier on all of your attacks. So if you're on level 2, it makes your energy attack an 8-stage energy attack instead of a 6. Turns all your physical attacks into just real big beat sticks. So I like this card. We're only running 2 energy blocks because we're a really stage pressure deck. and we attack stages from both fronts. So our opponent can't just be like, well, I'm just going to hold physical attacks or physical blocks, and they can't stage lock me, because then we're just going to throw energy attacks to stage lock them. Because Vegeta's level 2 and 3 don't state physical attacks. It says your styled attacks. So those massacres are doing stages. Your bursts are doing stages.
Plus the level 2 power
and
as
well.
well.
Level 2 is basically a stage lock in and of itself. So that's the blocks and events. We're going to go into the planning phase, and we're about to go to Value Town here. Three, Saiyan Enraged. This card, not only does it have Vegeta on it, because he's real mad, half a level, rejuve, card draw. What else could you want in this kind of deck? You will very rarely draw into a card that you don't want, and it just kind of sits out there. It does have some anti-synergy with Final Flash and with the next card, but we can just have it out there, force our opponent to deal with it. If they can't, then I'm going to be able to use it.
There's too many people living in Value Town for you not to play this card.
Yeah, you need to be the mayor of Value Town, because people are trying to live there rent free, and you got to show them who's boss. Speaking of becoming the mayor of Value Town, this card is insane. Some people didn't know what this card did. They learned real fast yesterday. Vegeta's Prideful Challenge, there's nothing. It's considered styled, 2 endurance, and it shuts off everything. Shuts off allies, shuts off drills, shuts off setups, and then draws a card because you're a Majin. And it's a when entering combat effect. So your opponent has very few answers to this. Also allows you to banish 3 cards from either player's discard pile. Generally going to be your opponent's, but you can use this on your own stuff to make sure you can set up your level 3. Yeah, get to Value Town. You'll appreciate it.
All right, so that's it for the cards. Now, Azarith has kind of final word on this. Do you want to just discuss any other special combos or your strategy or suggestions for a new player playing this deck?
Yeah, so for a new player playing this deck, I learned that you need to understand that losing your MPBV condition is okay. So generally you want to focus on that because you're progressing both survival and MPBV at the same speed, because your anger is generally giving you physical, or your physical attacks are generally giving you the anger. But if you need to, be willing to give it up. Be willing to throw the level 4 and understand that bouncing back to level 2 is important enough that you can give it up. Don't get overzealous. This deck can get caught in a bad spot. I don't want to say it's glass cannon, but if you make a mistake and you let off the gas at the wrong time, or you try to press at the wrong time, you can get punished really hard for it. Especially if you do what I did and you went block counting and you didn't find time, and then you enter and try to Galick Gun for game and you lose. Always make sure you're analyzing every situation. I don't believe this is a face aggro deck. It's an aggro deck, but it takes a lot of sequencing to play it properly.
Yeah, true to Vegeta. Vegeta is not a linear personality. There are a lot of decisions, and like Azarith was discussing earlier, there are mind games you can play with this deck. Also very true to Vegeta.
Yeah. Like, there might be a time where you have a Final Flash in your hand, but you have an Enrage on board, so you're willing to give your opponent that one action, see if they can be on your wavelength of what you're thinking, because maybe they'll just say, oh, he doesn't have the Final Flash, he would have led with it, and then they throw an attack, or they don't use their non-attack action. You get the Enrage card draw, and then you Final Flash, and you just punish them. So, yeah, there's a lot of different avenues you can take with this. That's probably the big thing I can say, is just don't go into every game thinking I have to enter combat every turn, throw all of my attacks. My round 1, I saw that he still had a blocking hand in his hand, and I had 3 attacks in my hand. And he looked at me, he was like, I'm like, pass. I'm like, you have the 3rd blocking hand in your hand, I'm not going to walk into it. So, yeah, that's the best thing. And don't be afraid to give up MPPV. That's fine.
All right, well, thank you, Azarith, for giving this deck list. If you love Majin Vegeta, if you're a Majin Vegeta fan, this personality perfectly captures the thematic the theme of Majin Vegeta. You know, he was taken over by Majin Babidi. He got strength from it. He had to struggle a little bit because of the mind control, but he was ruthless to the T, and that is Majin Vegeta. So if you're a fan, I highly suggest that you pick up this deck and try it out. Thanks again,
Absolutely.
Azarith.
Absolutely.